Hey, hang on.
The following show is a paid program. This show is brought to you by CH Global Financial Services.
Hi, family. What's up? Thank you for joining me on the Cam Hill Show on today. On today, we have our candidate for Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department, Eric Fagan. Thank you for doing this. Happy Father's Day to everybody. That's really what I'm thinking about. Early voting is going to start on Monday. I wanted to bring that out, June 29th, all the way to July the 10th, and Tuesday will be the day for the runoff elections, and that'll be July the 14th. Eric Fagan. Hey, my friend, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for coming out with us. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, early voting before we get started. Let's talk about the fact about how people in Fort Bend County, where can they vote?
For early voting, they can go out to vote at any of the 19 polling locations that they have right now. One location that has been removed was Four Corners location. They moved it to Madison Elementary because of the COVID virus. You can go online to Fort Bend County's Democratic website, and they give you all the locations of the new voting locations for this election.
Absolutely. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about you. How long have you been in law enforcement?
I have a 34-year career in law enforcement.
Many people are asking now about law enforcement because of the George Floyd instances. Many of the ones that have been killed are over a period of time, and also the hanging. What do you think went wrong, as you can see, with the George Floyd incident that you may have seen, maybe video or just some information, and it's just your opinion?
Well, my opinion is, when I saw the video, what I witnessed on that video was the actual murder of an individual. As you see, Mr. Foreman was stopped for a misdemeanor of offense of a $20 bill. He wasn't resisting at any time on that video. You saw him resisting. He did not. He complied. Even though he complied, they brought him out, put him to the ground, and put a knee to his neck, on his back, on his leg, and all the way down to his feet. 4 officers were on top of this man. He was calling to his mother, asking for help. A man over 6 foot tall, over 200 pounds, calling for your mother, you know something is very wrong at that point. When he said he couldn't breathe and he stopped and went unconscious, they stayed on him an additional 2 minutes.
Wow.
So to me, this witness is a murder.
Absolutely. I thank you so much about that. The reason I say that, many people have been asking, and I know by you being 34 years in the department, you know the way you're supposed to restrain a person in when they're being placed in the car or even out of the car, or whatever the fact is, in trying to, protect you as well as them.
Yes. One of the things, if you saw in that video, he was cuffed. One thing we learned in law enforcement, I can only speak of Houston Police Department. Once the cuffs are on, the violation, the action of us should stop. He wasn't resisting. It's about training. We have to train officers to protect not only the officers they work with, but the citizens that we serve. We have to have a policy of zero tolerance of brutality and excessive force. And we always talk about training the officers, but we also have to look at who are training the officers, putting the right people in to do the training as well.
I love that. It goes into a question of, why did you become a sheriff when you did?
Well, I decided to run for the sheriff's office here in Fort Bend for several reasons. One reason was when I was at the Houston Police Department, I worked in various divisions. And when human trafficking is an issue that's been around not only in Texas, but in the United States for a long time, we decided to do a task force to work with other agencies. But when we reached out here to Fort Bend, places like Missouri City, Sugar Land, they joined in with us. But when we reached out to the sheriff's department, the number one law enforcement in the county,
Yes.
we had the reception of, we don't have a human trafficking problem here. I was dumbfounded living in Fort Bend for 29 years for my lead law enforcement officers to say something like that. I mean, we right on 59, a thoroughfare of human trafficking. And to have human trafficking here or gang problem, we have to have a change, positive change.
I love that. There's some plans that you have in place, and I've witnessed and noticed a lot of things that you have, but domestic violence is one of the top things that you champion of.
Yes, yes, it is. Domestic violence is a crime that's underreported in the U.S. And the reason for that is a lot of people who are victims of domestic crimes are ashamed to come forward. I want to change that. What I would like to do, if elected as sheriff, is bring in organizations like Women Against Domestic Violence, the Organization Against Domestic Violence, and other organizations, bring them into my department to work along with the detective. If we have a person like that with us, sitting with us, that would help the individuals to be more comfortable in coming forward. That's a crime that's close to me and dear to my heart, that we address domestic violence. Look, right now, domestic violence is going up even more because of this COVID-19. Domestic violence and the cases of suicide are going up. These could be things that are hand in hand because victims will feel like they're trapped, have nowhere to go. We have to let them know that law enforcement knows the situation and we are here to address it.
Absolutely. I love that. You had several plans. Let's go down a few of the plans that you have for the Sheriff's Department when you get into office.
Well, my first plan is, you can see I have a 7-point plan. My first was training, active shooter and training. Look, officers need to be trained and be trained properly. What happened to George Floyd and to other people of color, we can't just say it was the officer. We have to put the onus back onto the department on the training and having zero tolerance for abuse. I want to do joint training in Fort Bend with all law enforcement agencies. If we have a policy that's county-wide, we have a policy of zero tolerance, things like that won't happen. We have to have officers feel like they can trust their brothers and sisters in law enforcement to do the right thing. When one officer goes rogue and do something wrong, we will back the other officers who stop that officer and report that officer. We also have to say this: if they fail to act, they will be held as accountable just as well to stand by and let another officer do something immoral or improper. My second goal was domestic violence, which we talked of. My third is community outreach. What I would like to do is reach out to all the communities in Fort Bend and talk to them and talk to the community leaders and find out what they need in their areas. It's important for two reasons. One, they give law enforcement a better eyes and ears on what's going on in the community. Another reason is it starts to open the door to the public. Right now, law enforcement and the community are more further apart than any time before. We have to do something to change that. My next initiative is community outreach, a youth initiative. I want to reach out to our youth. Look, I work with Dr. Penn. He's over the SB 30 bill. That bill is what Senator Royce West brought to the state because of citizens and youth complaining on how officers treat them at a traffic stop. That's the number one way most citizens come in contact with law enforcement is at a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Well, this bill addresses that. It goes to speaking to the youth on what to do during the traffic stop. But what I like about it more than anything else, it trains the officers on the proper actions to take during a traffic stop. Look, we spoke to over 1,000 youth during this program, which I'm a part of. And I'm sorry to say that some of the youth think they feel more safer running away from a police officer when they're stopped with them than staying there to talk with them. They feel that their lives are in danger when they encounter law enforcement. Well, we have to take that blame because of the actions of some bad officers, but we must change them. And the only way to do that is to reach out to them and let them know, look, we're not only asking you to be trained, but we're training the officers as well on how to treat you.
Absolutely. I love those plans, and we'll go through extensively a little bit about those things. To people in the community are very concerned about once they're stopped. What are they? The question is, what should they do, and what should they tell their children to do, especially young men? You know, your young boys, your young men.
Yes, yes. Look, being a man of color and having a family and friends and members of color, we have to tell our kids differently than others have to do.
Absolutely.
We have to tell them how to stay safe against people in law enforcement, which is sad to say, but it's something that's a fact of life that we've lived with all our lives.
Right.
Look, what I want citizens to know of all colors is this. When you see a police car behind you and they turn on their lights, the first thing you do is lower your speed. Don't give the officer any excuse to say that you're fleeing or anything like that. Lower your speed down to 25 to 20 miles an hour. Put on your flashers to let them know that they're behind you and that you're not trying to run away. Put on your flashers. Then pull over into a lighted area. Also, the law states, a lot of people don't know this, if you feel that you're uncomfortable with that officer behind you, and you're not really sure it's the officer, you have the right to call 911. Give them your location, and they will tell you who's behind you and if that's the officer. And they can communicate to that officer that you are looking for a lighted place to stop. Once you are stopped, put your hands on top of your steering wheel. Don't reach for your license or your insurance or anything like that. We don't want any accidents to occur. If an officer asks you for your driver's license and your insurance, tell the officer before you reach for them where they are, that it's in my pocket or it's in my glove pocket or it's in my console. You need to let them know and tell them while you're doing it that I'm about to reach for that, to give them no excuse. Look, all officers should have body cams on. I'm sorry to say Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department is not that way, but if elected, it will be. That body camera is not only good for the citizens, but for the officers as well. So tell them what every move you're going to make. And if an officer does something wrong at that scene, it's not the time to fight it there. I want you to get home safely, to file a complaint, to do it the next day.
Absolutely. I like that. The other thing, if someone, as you stated, we want to reiterate, if you're not feeling comfortable, especially young women being alone by themselves, if they're trying to get to a gas station, you suggested again, let's speak about the 911 as you talked about.
Yes, the law states you have every right to call 911 when you feel uncomfortable, even if there's an officer behind you, to ask, is this a legitimate officer behind me? I'm feeling uncomfortable. Or you call 911 to let them know, look, I'm looking for a lighted place to pull over. I'm not fleeing. I'm going less than 20 miles an hour. The officer's behind me. Would you let them know I'm looking for a lighted place to pull over?
I like that. The other thing, if the children are walking and they're walking home or something and they get stopped by an officer.
Look, that's something that's called, they should have a probable cause to stop you at any time, a probable cause. And if you're stopped by an officer and they ask you for your ID or who you are, give them the information. Look, you want to get out that situation as quickly and as safely as possible. But just to stop someone because they're walking home is not a reason to stop someone. We have a problem with racial profiling.
Yes.
Look, I've been in law enforcement for over 34 years. I know there's a problem with systemic racism in law enforcement. But like I said, there's more good officers than bad officers. I used to say that 99% of all officers are good. But when you look at the Floyd George Floyd's incident, all four of those officers, 100% of them were wrong. Not one of them tried to stop what was going on. So I can't say that anymore. We have to take onus on the problem and face it head on in law enforcement. I still have good men and women in law enforcement. I believe more than the bad ones, but we have to root the bad ones out.
There was another question that was being asked, Eric, about filming an officer. Is it illegal to film an officer, as the young lady did, now in fear of her life somewhat? She said no, as I was reading, because she did film the George Floyd incident.
It's not against the law to film an officer. You have every right to film. Look, that's why we have body cams, and you have every right to use your cell phone to video. You have to be a certain distance away. Did you see the incident in Baytown? The incident that happened in Baytown when they pulled over that young man. He had traffic warrants, I believe it was, and his friends was videoing. Well, they were 100 feet away. Those officers walked over to them and said, "Stop videoing. You're in my crime scene." They were absolutely wrong. And the only way we knew they were wrong, it was because those gentlemen had their recordings on. So you have every right to record. But again, you want to get away from an incident as safely and to end it as quickly as possible. So if an officer asks you to turn off your video phone, tell them you have every right to do it. It's by law, I have the right to video. And if he takes it from you, don't fight him or anything like that. Let him have it and everything, and then file your complaint later at a safer distance. Because if an officer does that, we know that officer is wrong and shouldn't be on the force.
That's a great answer. I like that. I'm glad we're talking about these things. Someone has another question about the fact, can the officer come on your private property with no regards or no warrant? Your private property in Texas, in Fort Bend County.
It depends on if a person has a call. If we get a call for service at a certain address, yes, we have the right to come on private property. Even if someone calls, say your neighbor calls and says he heard a gunshot at your residence, and maybe it was just a loud television that they heard. Well, even though you didn't call, a neighbor called, we have the right to investigate that scene. A lot of people take that the wrong way. Once we're there and we find out there's nothing wrong, then we have to leave. But at first sight, we do have probable cause to go onto private property.
When we come back, we will talk to Fagan more about what we should and should not do for the Department of Texas.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedans. Or experience the first ever 2020 Cadillac XT6 Premium Luxury Collection, only $519 with $1 down for 39 months lease. Or purchase and receive 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. Ron Carter Cadillac.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service, striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month, or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago, inside an abandoned chicken coop, where our founder discovered a retired teacher living. No home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP, creating real possibilities.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, thanks so much for coming back with me. Eric Fagan is the Fort Bend County candidate for Sheriff's Department. Hey, Eric, how's it going, my friend?
Going good, thank you.
Man, we talked about so many things. I'm so excited. We want to reiterate about early voting. Want to touch base and said June 29th through July the 10th is early voting, and you can vote anywhere in early voting in Fort Bend County we're talking about. Also, July the 14th is the day of the election, Tuesday, the election day. We'll talk a bit about, we had another question that came through about domestic violence again. If a person has a restraining order on them, how, as far as domestic violence is concerned, how many feet if it's in the order, and can they be arrested at that time? So many women and men have been murdered during that process.
Yes, the main time of homicides during domestic violence incidents, the statistic says, is when a victim is deciding to leave home.
Yes.
This is one of the things I want to address as the sheriff of Fort Bend. When a victim feels like it's time to leave, they had enough and they want to leave, I want them to know that they can call for the sheriff's department and have a deputy there with them while they're leaving. And for as a restraining order, if a person's in violation of a restraining order, it's up to the court the distance, and that person fails to obey that order, they can be arrested and they should be arrested. We have to show that we will enforce all laws, even civil ones, if it's been done by a court order.
I like that. If a person calls 911, this is another question that's come through. If the person has called 911 and they feel something has happened, they know they're being attacked at that time, and a 911 person is on the phone, what should they say so they won't alert the person that is attacking them? This is domestic violence.
What you should do, 911 is computer operated, and unless you're calling from a cell phone. If you're calling from a landline, your address will come up. But if you're calling from a cell phone, you have to give a location. What I would suggest for them to do is pretend that you're speaking to a family member or a loved one and let them know, I'd really like for you to come over at this time. That 911 operator, they're trained, majority of them are trained to understand that if a victim is calling, they dial 911 and they start talking about, I need you to come over to help me move something, because they're going to keep asking you questions like, are you in danger at this time? You just answer, play along. Yes, I need you to come right now. This is kind of heavy, or things like that. They are trained to recognize these types of calls.
I like that.
But it's very important to know that if you're not on a landline, you have to give directions for where you are.
If you're not on a landline and you're on your cell phone.
Right, correct. We need an address. If you do a landline, your address will pop up. But if you do from a cell phone, we won't know where you are unless you give us an address.
Okay, sounds good on that one. The other thing is community outreach. You've done so many things in community outreach as far as during this time of COVID. What do you see when you're out there as far as people are concerned and as far as helpfulness, the help that's out there?
There's a lot of agencies out there trying to help. I've been on several food drives, helped sponsor several food drives with other candidates here in Fort Bend. Brian Middleton, KP George, County Commissioner, our DA, Beverly Walker, all of them are out there trying to help everyone. COVID, giving out food, face masks, and gloves, things of this nature. You have to know if you need help, you have to know that Fort Bend is here to help you. Also, the officers here in Fort Bend, they are here to help you. If you need help, to let them know. We have a lot of food banks and churches are also out there to help the people here in Fort Bend. But most important, we have to help one another. Simple things like wearing your face mask when you go out. Look, this is not something that is lackadaisical. We have close to over 200,000 individuals across the United States that have lost their lives. This is not a joke.
Yes.
Everyone needs to put a hand in. And as simple as wearing a face mask when you go out in public to keep yourself safe and your family members and friends and loved ones safe as well. We have to work together.
That sounds great. I love that. Love the fact about the face mask. We need to reiterate that. We need to reiterate the fact that this is real. COVID is real. Let's talk about that. Let's discuss that a little bit that you have seen as far as you going out. What have you seen with the COVID-19?
One thing that I've seen that I would like people to realize, look, when you're wearing your face mask, you have to wear it properly.
Yes.
I see people with face masks that just cover their mouth, but the nose is not covered. You can still get the disease. It can go into your nose and eyes, any opening of your body. So you should wear it properly. The proper way to wear a face mask is to cover it to the bridge of your nose and under your chin. That's the proper covering, not just under your nose. You have to wear it properly to keep yourself safe and other individuals. The 6-foot rule is there for a reason. Look, when you cough or sneeze, that bacteria travels over 1,000 feet. Over 1,000 feet.
Wow.
We're just asking you to stand 6 feet away. 6 and wear that mask to diminish it. Wearing the proper mask, it will protect you.
I love that fact. We're talking about people are saying that mental illness is very big in our community. And many people
Yes.
are incarcerated because of that. What do you see and how do you feel about that?
I have my master's degree in juvenile forensic psychology. I did psychological evaluations on individuals in Harris County jail before they went to court. So that's something that I know about, I've been trained about. I'm the only candidate with that experience and hands-on experience. Look, a lot of people don't know that in the majority of every county in the United States, the largest percent of mental illness where they get treatment at is in the county jail. We have to change that. The county jail is not equipped to handle mental illness, to treat people of mental illness. A lot of people don't know that a mentally ill person, when they're off their meds, it takes them up to 72 hours to come down once they get the proper medication. If elected as sheriff of Fort Bend County, I want to work along with the DA and the courts to have a divergent court system here in Fort Bend County, which I understand that they're doing now. But you need a sheriff that understands that has actual hands-on experience and training and education in that area, which I have.
I like that. We had gone over the 7 things about your planning. What would you do first going into office?
My very first thing that I would do as sheriff of Fort Bend when I decided to run was change that 911 policy that the current sheriff had put in place. He had in place that he took 911 away from the constables here in Fort Bend County. Let me ask you this. If someone is breaking into your home and you call 911, do you care which agency, police agency comes to your house? Would it matter to you if it was a constable or a sheriff? You want the nearest person there to be there. That's the very first thing I will rescind. The next thing is the training, which is on my platform. It's the training. I would ask everyone to look at each of the candidates running for this office and look and see what their number one goals are and plans are once they come into office. And that's my number one, is training and safety to the citizens and the officers here in Fort Bend County.
Let's remind people what what the Fort Bend Sheriff's Department does that's a little different than the police department.
The county sheriff does this. We investigate felony crimes, homicide, domestic violence, sexual assault, all the things that a municipality does. The difference is this. We also are in charge with the county jail, the county jail system as well. We're in charge of that. We're supposed to work with other county agencies and law enforcement agencies within the area of Fort Bend. Right now, that is not going on here in Fort Bend. They don't have a good relationship. I want to change that. When I was with the Houston Police Department, I was the president of the Afro-American Police Officers League, the largest Afro-American police officers union in the state of Texas. There at the Houston Police Department, while I was there, the Houston Police Union, the largest police union in the state of Texas, they were fractured, never came together. I bridged that gap, reaching out to the union and to my association, and we brought the two unions together. Doing that, we started a program where we reached out to the community, where officers in uniform would go to various churches in Houston area to fellowship with the members and to let them know that we're a part of this area and we are a part of the community. That would bring the officers and the community closer together. I want to bring that type of program to Fort Bend County Sheriff Department and to the people in the community, bringing the officers, the deputies, officers, and the communities together.
I love that. As you see the Fort Bend Sheriff's Department as it exists now, what changes need to be made?
First changes that need to be made is proper training. The next change is opening the doors to the agency, to the public. When I was a member of the Houston Police Department, I was a part of the ADR division, the Alternative Dispute Resolution Center. That's called mediation. And what that is this. When a citizen has a complaint, files a complaint on an officer, majority of the time they feel like nothing's ever being done because we close the doors and we handle situations like that inside the agency and don't let the public know what happened, if any punishment has happened or any reprimand has happened or anything like that. I want to change that through mediation, where the officer and the citizen that they had the conflict with can come together and sit at a table on equal ground, and the officer can explain their action, and the citizen has the right to ask the officer questions on what happened at that scene. That's a program I want to bring here in Fort Bend. I'm blessed to say over the 200 cases I personally mediated at the Houston Police Department, I have a 100% agreement rate reached between the citizens and the officers. We can do that here in Fort Bend County if I'm elected as sheriff of Fort Bend.
As you were speaking of with mediation, let's extensively explain what the difference in mediation and then going to court is. What's the difference?
Mediation is a program that can help stop a lot of things from happening, from going even worse. Right. Look, when someone files a complaint in the Houston Police Department against an officer, it first goes through the IAD department, Internal Affairs Department. If it's found appropriate to go to mediation, the officer and the citizen, and with the Houston Police Department, the officer is mandated that he has to attend mediation. Now, the citizen is voluntarily can come to mediation, but the officer is mandated that he has to come. And at that mediation, there's no guns. He can't bring a gun in or any weapon in. They're on equal grounds. And the decision during the mediation is binding. Both of them signed like a contract that says they will abide by the ruling of the mediation agreement. It's different than the court in this matter. There's no judge there to decide your case. The two participants actually decide their own case. And also, there's no money being involved. It costs thousands of dollars to have a lawyer to represent you, leaving time from work or anything like that. Mediations can take place anytime, at any time during the anytime where the citizen has time to come out to be a part of the mediation. This can help stop a lot of lawsuits from happening, and also it opened the doors to the public to let them know that we are concerned about their concerns and their complaint, that we are actually doing something. That's a program that is needed in Fort Bend.
That's good. Question is, how long can a person stay in jail before they go for trial or convicted or go up first? Someone is saying based on time frame. For instance,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a law, speedy trial. You have to have come to a speedy trial, but that's up to the court system. The court system, that's a constitutional right to have a speedy trial. But people have to realize right now what's going on with COVID-19. The time left has been moved back because right now they're doing virtual courts and things like that. So people have to understand that. But you still have that right to a speedy trial.
Absolutely. I like that. Like the fact that as far as George Floyd is concerned, and I know you have talked about this extensively too, that the law has to change based on that. What changes need to be made that you think, in your own opinion, about the laws?
One thing is this. Look, President Obama put out a 21st century policing program back 5 years ago. And now, since George Floyd, they're trying to make it seem like it's something new. No, this was done by President Obama over 5 years ago. Right. We have to make it mandatory. Chokeholds are not tolerated. They will be outlawed at all agencies. The person that's holding the White House seat right now, he put out his reform saying that only chokeholds can only be used when an officer's life is in danger. Then it's proper to use it. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. To choke someone, your life is not in danger. You have them in a chokehold and your life is in danger.
Right.
There's no reason to use a chokehold to hold someone down. There's no reason to detain somebody with a chokehold. That's something that we arrest people on every day. We call that murder. That is not a proper police action.
Thank you so much for that. Just the explanation is very clear of the information that you have given on that. Also, we understand that first degree murder was has not been issued, but it was second and third degree murder. And some people say that's a slap on the hand. Let's explain that part and why.
The third degree, I was shocked when it first came out. Third degree, something like manslaughter, where you can get a probation or anything like that, not even serve really jail time.
Right.
Because the judge could have said time served and let them go.
Right.
Look, if you look at all the people of color who've been killed
yes.
By the hands of law enforcement, one for selling cigarettes, one for smoking, female for smoking the cigarette in a car, one for a $20 bill. These are misdemeanor offenses that people of color have lost their lives on. And then Trayvon Martin,
yes.
walking in the neighborhood, and someone took it upon themselves to follow him, and then he was murdered by that person. Look, these things happen because not only the court system, but also we have to take onus for it ourselves. We have to start serving on court as jurors. When you get a jury summons, you need to be there because we're the ones that have to say that that's not right.
Yes.
That to get a slap on the wrist for murdering someone of color is not acceptable anymore. The punishment has to fit the crime, and we don't see that because of people of color when we get killed. But when someone else get killed, yes. We see a higher punishment. We have to change that. We have to change that, and we all must take onus of that. Look at the facts and look at the statistic. It's not a race thing. It's just a fact. Look, every house is important. When a fireman goes to put out a fire, he goes to the house where the fire is. He doesn't stop at your house to check on it to see if it's right. He goes where he sees the fire. That's what Black Lives Matter is all about. We're the ones who are being killed. So we're the ones that need to be taken care of at this time. We are a family of God. I'm a Christian and I believe that. But right now, it is people who look like me and you are being damaged and being taken advantage of. So we have to take action to stop that.
Absolutely. When we come back, we will talk more extensively to Eric Fagan.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month, or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living, no home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to do how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP, creating real possibilities.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedan. Or experience or $9% APR for 70 November. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
And to the show.
Hey, welcome back to the Cam Hill Show. I have my special guest, Eric Fagan, who is the candidate running for Fort Bend Sheriff's Department. Hey, my friend, how you doing, Eric?
I'm good.
Man, we've talked a lot of things, great information that's out there. Thank you for telling people about a lot of things that are happening. Let's go extensively to your plans. You had 7 plans. Just went over them a little bit. Let's extensively go into the plan. We talked about domestic violence, I know. We talked about the community. Let's go with the others. We did talk about training.
Yes, training. Next one is crime prevention.
Yes.
What I want to do is bring 21st century policing into Fort Bend. Look, I want to bring technology into Fort Bend. I want to get more drones up in the air to see things that are going on that the deputies can be more aware of, can get to you quicker and faster.
Yes.
Also, I wanted to start my millennial initiative, youth initiative. What I'm talking about that is this. I want to work with the different school ISD districts here in Fort Bend County and do things like this. As my deputies are doing on patrol, what I want them to do is to stop by the schools just for 5 minutes, 5 to 3 minutes, get out of their cars, walk in the hallways of the school, and then to come back out and go back on patrol. That does 2 things. One, it lets people know that law enforcement are keeping their eyes on our children at the schools and may stop an active shooter event from occurring at the school. 2, it also let the youth know that the police are there to help them. See a friendly face of an officer that's stopping by their school just to walk the campus and then get back in their car. So that's another thing. Another thing that I want to do is start I talked about mediation, but also do a citizen review panel. I want to bring a citizen review panel to Fort Bend County Sheriff's offices. What I want to do is to reach out to all the different precinct chairs and select one from each Republican and Democrat to be on that panel. Also, reach out to all the different religious organizations, temples, synagogues, churches, things like that. Ask for one member from each one of those to be on the panel. Also, people from the millennial age group, 18 to 34, to be on that panel. What this panel will do, they'll have a 1 to 2 year term. And what they will do, they will look over every controversial incident that may have happened in the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department, and they will discuss that issue, what happened, and what they think should happen to that officer if that deputy did something wrong or not. But once they come up with that finding, it will be given back to the Sheriff's Department, and whereas the sheriff would have the final disposition on what should occur to that officer, if anything at all.
That's great. We have all of the plans that you're going to do. We have the first day we're going to do it, we have job description and things like that that we spoke about. We want to then tell each one of you that the Fort Bend Sheriff's Department is the one that when you call 911, when you are contacted by them, Eric, what then should they do after they contact you at the 911?
When you call 911, let the dispatcher know what the problem is, your location. Let them know if there's any weapons or anything like that at the scene. Let them know if there's a mentally ill person there. The reason for that information is if we know there's a mentally ill person, the officer knows there's something different that they should do. My training would take part in that, training the deputies at Fort Bend, because I want to have a certain special unit just for mentally ill calls. So you need to give all the information that you can so we can get that to you safely and properly. There was an incident that happened in Houston where, no, it wasn't in Houston, it was in the city where a mother called on her son, mentally ill son, and he had a screwdriver. And when he came to the door with that screwdriver, the officer shot and killed him.
Yes.
Something that could have been avoided if the officer would have had proper training. I'm not second guessing that officer. A screwdriver could be used as a deadly weapon. But I'm just saying, if that officer would have had the proper training and the knowledge of mental illness, something else could have been done. He could have been at his car to calm the person down, ask the mother and any other family member who was in the house to come out of the house, leaving the mentally ill person there alone. And then we could have talked that person down.
Absolutely. I love the way you speak about training. After 34 years, you've seen it, probably that it's needed and things like that. And mental illness is one of the top that we have seen in our community. We reiterate that because it is something that people are incarcerated for and really did not do the crime at that time, we're finding out.
Yes, and the law has an actual policy on that. If you're not mentally competent of the crime that you're committing, you can't be held liable for it. People have to realize mental illness is like any other illness. It's an illness. If they have that proper medication and the proper treatment, they can function like any other citizen here in America. We have to take the stigma off of mental illness and treat it like any other illness. And also, we can't criminalize it. We have to have people who are in office that understand that. I have the hands-on training and the education to do just that as your next Fort Bend County Sheriff.
What makes you the one that one chooses for this position for Fort Bend County Sheriff?
I have the training, the education, and the hands-on experience. Also, they need to. I want people to look at this. Out of all the organizations, the political organizations here in Fort Bend, the Hano Democrats, the Young Democrats, I've received all those endorsements. The AFL-CIO, I've received that endorsement. Each candidate running for the Sheriff's Department was vetted and asked questions and interviewed by all these organizations. Each one of these organizations chose me as the best person to lead Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, because they looked at our background. They looked at each of our backgrounds and they chose me. I have the most endorsement in the political arena as well. Mayor Sylvester Turner endorses me. Mayor of Arcola, Fred Burton, endorses me. Mayor of Kendleton also endorses me. Ron Reynolds, Representative Ron Reynolds, have his endorsement. Senator Boris Miles, I have his endorsement. Look, all of these people who knows law enforcement, works in law enforcement, they chose me. They looked at each one and chose me. My opponent right now is a female. I have the most endorsement from female leaders in law enforcement. Constable Mae Walker of Precinct 7 endorsed me. Vera Bumpers, the Chief of Police of Metro Police, a federal agency, endorses me. Mary Young, TSU Chief of Police, endorses me. They all chose me because of character and integrity. Look, character counts and integrity matters. Each one of these people and organization looked at each of our backgrounds and each one chose me. So I'm asking you to do the same. Look at each of our backgrounds, look at our records, and then choose the best person you believe to be your next best sheriff. And if you do that, I do believe that you will choose me.
That is fantastic. Eric, you always give back. I've seen you do a lot of things in the community and things like that. And you also have a foundation for your son, Patrick. Let's talk a little bit about that, about your foundation.
My son, Patrick, he passed, he was killed in a car accident in 2013 while he was attending college. He was a very talented tennis player. And he's also was a person that would like to give back to the community. So in his honor, we started the Patrick Project tennis program, where we had a tennis tournament, and all the proceeds went to scholarships and things like that to help underprivileged kids in schools, to help them to get an education. We did that in honor of him. That's something that's dear and close to my heart. To lose a child is something I don't wish on my worst enemy. That's something that I'll have a hole in my heart until I one day will be with him, and I know I will be with him. Also, let me mention my daughter, who I'm very proud of as well. She just completed her medical residency in Detroit. She just finished her medical residency, and now she's here back in Houston to practice her field of medicine, of psychiatry. So I'm very proud of her as well. And I have a beautiful wife that I've been married to for over 35 years, my high school sweetheart, my best friend, my ride or die, you can say. My wife, who I'm very proud of as well.
I love that. I just wanted people to know that you do have the foundation, you do give back, and about your family. COVID-19 is something that you extensively speak about. Let's tell people more about because you fight for this COVID-19 because you know it to be real. Let's reiterate that to people, because I believe many do not believe it is real, because I see many people not wearing the mask or the gloves. I see a lot of people still not doing that, going into the restaurants as well as other businesses. Let's speak on that. Yes.
Look, you have to be careful who you listen to, especially coming from the federal government side. His own medical team is telling people to wear a mask and to do the social distancing. When you see me out there at these food drives giving out foods and things like that, I have on a mask. I wear gloves and things like that to protect myself, but also to protect the public. Yes. Look, it's not a joke. A very good friend of mine, very dear friend of mine, just been diagnosed with this COVID-19, and she's being quarantined and being cared for. So we're praying for her as well. But it's not a joke. I'm pretty sure most people now they know someone, a family member or a friend that have contracted this disease. It's not a joke, people. And right now it's on a rise again. It's on a rise again because people took it for granted.
Yes.
Don't feel like just because you're feeling healthy or things like that, you could be a class A pragmatic, meaning that you have the disease, but you just don't feel it or anything. It hasn't been fully full blown into your system, but you could pass it on to someone else. You have to think about the young children and the elderly right now who have weak immune systems. So you could pass it on to someone who can't fight it off the way you can. So you're just not wearing it for yourself, you're wearing it for others. You have to believe this is true. We have over 200,000 people in the United States who have lost their lives. This is not a joke. We're losing more lives than we did in some wars right now. So we have to take this seriously.
Wow, Eric, it is, oh man. We have learned so much about you, my friend. I thank you, thank you, thank you. It has been fantastic in knowing what you're doing. Last words for the viewers about your campaign and who you are.
Last word is this. Please come out and vote. Your vote matters. Look, we've had a lot of protests right now that is righteous, that it need to be protested. But you have to understand this. Protesting without voting is meaningless. Look, George Floyd can't vote anymore. Breonna Taylor can't vote anymore. Ahmaud Arbery can't vote anymore. Don't let their lives be in vain. Your vote counts for them. Come out and vote. Vote because you need a change, that you want a change, and that you demand a change. Let your voices be heard. Look at the candidates that are running. Look at who endorsing the candidates. Look at what the candidates put as their platforms, what the first platforms are, what they want to address. Look at my platform and compare it to my opponent's platform. Look, I'm a Christian. I don't need to tear down anyone to build myself up. I stand on my record. I want you to look at my background. I want you to research me. Research me and look at my background. Look who's endorsing me. And then choose the best person who can win in November to be your next Fort Bend County Sheriff. As always, I want to say, stay safe and God bless. And thank you for listening to me and for you having me here on your show today.
Thank you, my friend. That is Eric Fagan, Fort Bend County Sheriff candidate for 2020. Early voting again, June the 29th through July the 10th and July the 14th, that's Tuesday. On my next show, I will have Kenny and Shantae Lloyd, CEOs of Tava Lifestyle. That's on tomorrow. You do not want to miss them. They will tell you how to follow your dream. Have a great one. Bye.